Since I have been hosting the show, I have had a saying. Far be it from me to overlook that the group of five is getting a team into the playoff this year. Boy, that could be Boise State. It could also be UNLV. So the Rebels should be an undefeated team. They quite literally dropped a game-winning interception twice on the field. They're playing Boise State Friday night in a G5 showdown when they were playing Syracuse a couple weeks ago. They went on the road to Corvallis this week and won a football game. It's not an easy thing to do. Oregon State decimated along the defensive line, but Corvallis is not an easy place to win, and UNLV was able to accomplish that. I give them their flowers. I don't look back after the fact and say, well, it was just this. No, I'm not the turnabout sort of guy. I think I've made that very clear on the show over the last couple of months. But UNLV having one loss, none in the Mountain West. Boise State, one loss, none in the Mountain West. And Boise State's lone loss of the year by 3 points on the road to the now number one team in the AP poll in all of college football. So yeah, you should look at Boise State and say, they're the favorites to make the college football playoff. But this has all the makings of the game of the year in the group of five, because you've got a couple of teams who have built legitimately strong group of five resumes. Boise State's best win, probably Washington State. I will touch on them more in a couple of minutes and explain why that is a really quality win in addition to a high quality loss. And by the way, UNLV, their lone loss that I mentioned to a Syracuse team that plays Pitt later this week. And, well, earlier than everyone else, but later than when this show is coming out, of course, Syracuse has only lost one football game. Pretty good first year for Fran Brown and company. Kyle McCord is throwing it all over the field. Left, right, short, long, middle, left corner, right corner, everywhere. Kyle McCord is he's throwing it there and doing so successfully. But Boise State has been a dormant brand compared to what they were. Do you know that there was a time where a non-conference matchup was played between Boise State and Georgia, and it is a top 10 matchup, and Boise State won? Do you remember that? I remember that. I was not literally there, but I was watching, and I remember, and Boise State, for this season, we'll see what happens when Ashton Jeanty isn't back there, because he is quite literally the most unstoppable player in all of college football. He'd have my Heisman vote right now. He would. I'd have Travis Hunter second and Cam Ward third. But Ashton Jeanty is doing something statistically that we just haven't seen in a very, very long time. So I look at this Boise State team and say they had a surprise quarterback battle in which Maddox Madsen beat out a former 5-star recruit in Malachi Nelson, one-time USC Trojan, and he's a backup. And Maddox Madsen, he's just winning football games. He's not going to blow you away. He's not going to tear everything up and go for 400 yards, because the best play Boise State has is here. Ashton, come run the football. We're going to give it to you now. And then he takes it, and then he runs through the entire defense. It looks like huddle highlight videos of 5-star running backs who have no business playing against high schoolers in a remote part of the country where you don't have another Division I football player on the field. That's how he has looked the entire season. He did that against Oregon. He did that against Georgia Southern. He did it against Washington State. He has done it against everybody. And it's going to be on full display. It doesn't matter whether you know it's coming. The Boise State offensive line, unsung hero of the season for the Broncos to be sure, but this guy is breaking tackles at a rate I just haven't seen before. And it's a difficult thing to stop. UNLV's defense, let's just say they've had their moments this year. But ever since that quarterback changed, the last time you probably heard about UNLV football, it was Matthew Sluka and NIL and another running back had opted out. They almost look like a better team. And Barry Odom, Brendan Mary, and that entire coaching staff, they deserve a lot of credit. They deserve a lot of credit for the way they handled that situation, and that they have put themselves into a legitimate spot to be a Mountain West title contender and a player to get the college football playoff spot from the group of five ranks. So this game has all the makings of one you look back on and say, hey, that decided who got to the playoff. Because Boise State and UNLV are building legitimate resumes right now. And beating each other, big boost. They could meet each other again in the Mountain West Championship game. I can see that happening. I can absolutely see that happening. But UNLV, that's a good football team. And Boise State is more than just one player. Yes, Ashton Jeanty is great, but they are a good football team. Better be at their best on Friday night. They are on the road in Las Vegas. I'll have a pick later in the week. But this game, don't overlook how big of a football game this is. Because on the horizon in the Group of 5 playoff chase, here comes Army. Here comes Navy. Navy's got Notre Dame this week. Better not overlook that one either. But what if Army or Navy beats Notre Dame? Entirely plausible, might I add, given that Notre Dame has had a propensity to have a lot of peaks and valleys so far this season. So what if Army or Navy start to rise in the rankings? You know what a differentiator will be to be the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion? A win over a team like UNLV or Boise State. Makes a difference. Having a high-quality loss. Boise State's got the better of the two losses, so UNLV probably needs it a touch more. But I tell you what, I'm excited to watch that football game. Boise State's best win to date is Washington State, who continues to just be a good football team. They've got 7 Mountain West opponents and a handful of others, and they're just good. Washington State's good. Now, I got a couple of comments and messages from people saying, hey, should Washington State be ranked? Shouldn't they be in the top 25? I understand the instinct there. Washington State is 6-1. They have got wins over Texas Tech, and they have got wins over Washington. Here's the problem that they're running into. Their lone loss is on the road against Boise State, but they've got a pair of Power 4 wins. The case for them to be ranked is readily available, can easily be made, and they're not that far from being inside the top 25. The reason I think they're not is those 2 Power 4 wins suffered bad losses last time they took the field. Baylor went into Lubbock and housed Texas Tech. They're still a solid football team, but that doesn't help. I'm just telling you what the AP voters are likely arriving at from a conclusion standpoint to leave Washington State out. And Washington has lost to Iowa and Rutgers. Those are not the most quality losses. Iowa went to Michigan State in maybe my best upset pick of the week and lost to the Spartans. Rutgers lost to UCLA. So the quality of those wins, though still respectable, have been diminished in the eyes of the college football world. And so this is still Boise State's best win. If you're comparing Group of 5 resumes, it's going to continue to be a quality win. Washington State is not going to lose a lot of football games. I predicted them 9-3 before the season. That feels like bare minimum floor. Go look at the rest of their schedule. Who's beating them? They still play Oregon State. Feels a lot like Washington State is a much better team of our friends over in the Pac-2. So I think that for Boise State, that win is still quality and is a resume booster. And it's going to continue to become that. And for Washington State, yes, you can make the argument that they're ranked. But the problem is they have a loss, and Army and Navy do not. And they like that 0 in the loss column. And their wins are not looking as strong. But I'm not devaluing them in a major way, because Washington's still going to be a bowl team in the Big Ten, and so is Texas Tech in the Big 12. So if you have those 2 wins, one close and one was not, by the way, they rolled Texas Tech at home all the way back in week 2. Washington State will find their way into the top 25. They cannot win 10 games and not be ranked by the end of the year. If they win again this week, if they win again next week, if Washington State wins 2 more games, they're sitting there 8-1, they'll find their way into the top 25. Help will always be given to those at Hogwarts who hold their own. That is often the case in college football. So if Washington State keeps winning, they'll find their way back into the top 25, and Boise State will just look up and go, oh, thank you. That's adding to our resume. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time, and until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.